You've been earning, you've been working hard, showing up, doing everything right, but are you actually building wealth? Today, I'm sitting down with certified financial planner Melanie D. Perry, and she is about to tell you exactly what is standing between you and the financial life you deserve. Please stay with us. Greetings and welcome to the Elevated Flow podcast. I'm your host, Coach Flo, the Black Rowing Queen. The Elevated Flow podcast spotlights elite and everyday female athletes, mostly over 40, sharing how they elevate their game in their flow in sports, wellness, work, and life. These are powerful stories of strength, resilience, wisdom, and inspiration to help women stay active, age strong, and pass the torch to the next generation. Today, I have a very special guest with me. Please help me welcome Miss Melanie D. Perry. Welcome to the Elevated Flow podcast. Thank you for agreeing to be here. How are you?
It's a delight and a pleasure. I'm doing good.
Awesome. Thank you for agreeing to be on the podcast. I know we have a lot to talk about, even though we talk like 2-3 times a week already. But we're going to let people in on some of our conversation today. So welcome. This is a space where high achieving women come to talk about their whole picture, not just your body, not just your business, your life, because you did not come this far to be tired, overlooked, and running on empty. You came to be elevated. All right. So, Miss Melanie D. Perry is a certified financial planner with over 2 decades of experience helping high net worth clients build and protect sustainable wealth. She currently co-founded the Sustainable Wealth Advisory Group, continuing a private practice built on one principle, making wise financial decisions that last. But Melanie did not just show up in the financial world. She showed up as one of the only women of color in the room. For years, she has navigated a male-dominated industry, broken barriers, and kept coming back because she knew who needed her on her other side. In 2010, Melanie took that same purpose and poured it into Zillionaire Enterprises, a financial literacy company built for entrepreneurs who are ready to master their money. She teaches women and purpose-driven business owners how to create a spending plan that actually works, conquers debt, and protect what they have built. She believes deeply in planting seeds early. Melanie created a financial literacy summer camp and curriculum for kids and teens because she knows the habits we build young are the ones that carry us farthest. She is the author of All About the Benjamins, helping people create sustainable wealth in the midst of financial insanity, and Jonathan and Geneva, The Adventures of a Zillionaire Kid, a financial literacy book for elementary age children. The Los Angeles Women's Chapter of the NAACP and other national organizations have recognized her for this work. And when she's not in the financial trenches, you will find her on the trail, an avid hiker and fellow outdoor adventurer. Melanie knows that the discipline it takes to summit a mountain is the same discipline it takes to build real wealth. No, I had to throw in the hiking.
Absolutely.
Right. So, wow, where are we going to start?
Well,
How
I
long
think
has it been since we've
how
known
long
each
has it
other?
been? Right. Well,
Yeah.
it goes back to my AXA days, which is a good 20 years.
If not more, because no, for sure more, because you know my mother, and we just last week, I think it was, or 2 weeks ago, celebrated the anniversary of her passing, which was 18 years ago. So it was long before that.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
And a big
crazy, huh?
while.
20. Wow. Yeah, so she's my financial advisor and still is. I know I fell off a little bit at one point and then came back, but
That's all right.
what do they
Bring it
say
back with
the
welcome arms.
right. What is in the follow-up? The
Yeah, I got you. The something's in the follow-up. Yeah.
Yeah, the something, my goodness, it's a financial term. But anyway, so
There's those kind of
finances are in the follow-up, something like that. But anyway, so that's where we met. She was a referral from a friend that I went to college with, one of her sorority sisters. And yeah, we've been like, rocking it ever since pretty much. Like I said, I fell off as far as, going through the passing of my mother and losing a job and all of that, but she was right there and has continued to give me financial advice. So, yes, I am so excited to share her knowledge and wisdom with my audience. So, something else that I wanted to mention really quickly because she's my accountability partner, which I've talked about online a lot and, putting ourselves on blast, so to speak when we don't do the things or set the goals that we have for the week. And so something that I mentioned in your bio that I want to touch on is in 2020, you're talking about planting seeds financially, but aside from that, which I didn't mention in your bio, is that you're a gardener as well. So I remember in 2020 during COVID, she used to bring food to my house from her garden. And I was like, you're like Amazon Prime. And so she started calling herself Zillionaire Prime. So
that was
yes,
you. You coined the phrase.
yes, Zillionaire Prime. Okay. So yeah. So anyway, let's talk a little bit let's go back to what actually got you into the financial sector.
That's an interesting question because my degree was in quantitative economics. And when I graduated, I just, looked everywhere, for a job somewhere in the space and wasn't really coming into anything that really settled well with me. And then my mom handed me a newspaper, which verifies how long ago this was, tangible physical newspaper and was like, "Hey, why don't you check this out?" So I went to the interview. I liked it. It was a small firm. It's no longer here in the United States anymore. And I liked the idea of one, being able to use my degree, two, being able to understand another level of how money worked and what money was and how it could enhance my life and the lives of those that I provide the services to, and to really be of service to people that look like me, that did not necessarily have this opportunity or knowledge to be able to embrace investing without feeling
Mm,
intimidated, shame, embarrassed, but being able to explain terms in a relatable way that's not, over people's heads. So that's how I was introduced. And actually, I had a broker. I asked my broker, what do you think about this firm? What is it like? I just asked him more so of the work life experience versus just, talking about, investing. So he was like, thumbs up, proud of you for, wanting to get into the industry. And I've been in it 27 years.
wow. Wow. Now, I did mention in your bio that a lot of times you're the only woman of color in a lot of rooms, especially back in the day, I'm sure. I know things have changed a lot in recent past, probably with the internet and everything. But what about that experience, aside from you saying, oh, I want to help people understand financial literacy and finances in a way that it doesn't go over their head? What about being in those spaces as the only, probably not just the only Black woman, but probably the only woman a lot of times in a male dominated field? What about it made you just keep showing up even when you were the only?
Well, I'm still the only.
Oh,
You know,
okay.
There's a difference with financial advisors,
Hmm.
coaches, insurance agents, so when you're actually in the wealth management space, I'm still the only spotted pecker in a sea of salt. So I think I said pepper.
Pepper.
So I don't look at it as a feeling of separateness or isolation, or I stand out like a sore thumb. I own the space, I own my space, and I engage and interact, and I feel comfortable being there. I sit in the front row, front seat, I ask questions, I engage. I don't feel intimidated. Sometimes I can feel there have been times in the beginning years where I did feel kind of like, a little bit out of place, but that wore off and it was really no different than my college experience.
Mm,
So I went to UCSD. I'm taking quantitative economics. Not very many people were, and truthfully, that was actually more of an intimidating space. I would say more so than when I got into the industry
mm,
because I did not feel comfortable asking my colleagues questions, going to office hours with people or anything like that. I felt like I was supposed to know. I felt like
mm.
I was supposed to ask questions and you had this I didn't get in through affirmative action. I actually got in based upon my credentials, your GPA and all that stuff, but also because my sister went there. So
Mm.
that, added me or assisted me in getting into CSD. But that was more intimidating, I would say, than actually being in the industry. Because I remember a couple of fun little stories. There was a conference or meeting or something like that where all the advisors got together. And, you have this person's talking about financial stuff. And I was in the midst of studying for my CFP. CFP is a very rigorous certification to get.
And
And
what
you
does CFP stand for?
Thank you, certified financial planner.
Okay.
And at the time when I was getting my CFP, slight little segue, it's a 10-hour, 2-day exam, multiple choice, where you've got to know very detailed, granular information. So I'm in the midst of studying for my CFP. I'm at this, wasn't a workshop, but you could say like a seminar for financial advisors that the firm was putting on. The gentleman asked a question, and I knew the answer was interpolated terminal reserve. And I love saying it because it's like, what the heck is that? And it sounds all super intelligent, and as he was talking, this actually happened to me twice.
Mhm.
As he was talking, I was like, I think he's talking about the interpolated terminal reserve. So I answered the question and it was like, everybody turned and looked like, who knew the answer to that? Right. And so another time, a very similar thing happened. And I had, that very minute answer to an
Mhm.
obscure question. And it felt good. It felt good. So I can't remember now the question you asked, but
About just what made you keep showing up,
what made
being
me
the
keep
only.
showing up?
Mhm.
Well, it's always that why,
Yeah.
your purpose, that drives you. And when you're faced with adversity, you're faced with challenges, you're faced with fear, uncertainty, and all that good stuff, what keeps you present is the bigger picture.
Right.
I'm just a part of the plan to be able to assist people in their wealth journey. And so for me to assist people in their wealth journey, I've got to show up. I have to do things
Mhm.
that I don't like doing. I'm on this podcast. I'm on, you know, the in doing videos and doing seminars and workshops and being present. I prefer being a fly on the wall. I'm an introvert, I could have a whole lot of fun just being in a quiet space observing. I
Mhm.
don't have to be on the platform and the panel and the this and the that. But here I am on the Elevated Flow podcast,
Right.
and I'm all over social media on my page and feed and all that kind of stuff. That is only because people need to hear what I have to offer, and that's a part of what God placed on my heart to be able
Right.
to assist people in this journey. And for whatever reason, this body that I've been put in has allowed people to feel comfortable and they're revealing very intimate financial information with me and feel comfortable about doing so and not feel dumb, stupid, ignorant, shameful. So I understand there's a word that's not coming to me, but I understand the value of this package, that I'm
Mm.
in to be able to easily disseminate information that is prevent what's the word? Kept away from
Mhm.
us. That's not the word I'm looking for, but that's the point. And oftentimes the information is locked up in a way where you feel a little silly in asking.
Mm.
There's some aspects of finances where you get to a certain point in your life where you think you should know this. This is
Right.
something that, and how come you don't have this by now? And how come you're not there? Why do you still have this going on? And, all of these different financial setbacks. But in truth, 40 is you're just getting started.
Mm.
That fourth decade on this planet is really just the beginning. So
I really
anyone.
hope that people hear that and really take that to heart because
Oh,
I think at that age, people really feel like, oh, I'm behind. I can't believe I'm starting over. And I think that that's one of the beauties of social media in that respect is you see people saying, oh, I'm 50, I'm 60, I'm 70, I'm starting over. You're like, wow, I really thought I was behind. And not to say that you know how they say misery loves company. It's not in that type of way, but it's like,
right.
well, okay, there are other people that are even older than me that may feel like they're behind and they're just starting over. So, yeah, that's refreshing to hear.
There's two little caveats to that. One is statistics. So, statistically speaking, the average person really doesn't wake up until 40 and they're like, oh, I've got about 20, 25 more years before I hit 65, 67. Now it's moved up to 75 in terms of receiving Social Security.
Mm,
But, that whole age 65 retirement age, you've got a good, 15, 20 years before that happens. And then you kind of wake up like, okay, what do I need to do? And there's time to get that accomplished. And now with the influx of the internet, digital technologies and all that, it even accelerates the ability to accumulate the necessary amount of wealth to be financially independent. Now, from a cultural standpoint, in the Yoruba culture, you don't become an adult until the age of 40. And
mm,
when you think about your brain isn't fully developed until 25, and think about where your brain was and what you were doing and decisions you were making in your 20s, and then when you get into your 30s, and then you get into your 40s, and then for those who are already in their 50s or knocking on it, and then their 60s and 70s, you just feel more and more assured and confident in yourself. And so when it comes to making financial decisions, you now have at least 20 years of work experience
mm.
and you've got 40 years of life on this planet of human experience of engaging with people and learning
Yeah,
your so that you can now move forward with even greater confidence that okay, the silly nonsense I did in my 20s or the bad decisions I made, 10 to 20 years ago is feedback, not failure.
I love it. I love it. And I remembered to saying it's the fortune is in the follow up.
There you
I
go.
know it's something to do with money.
It's coming. It's here.
Right. I love that because, like you said, I think that I know that, and I think I talked about this with a previous guest where I think the person, well, whatever it was, however old the person was, it was like oh, she was 60. That's what it was. It was Juanita talking about how your life experiences is what you have to your benefit at this when you're in your older age. So yes, some people may feel like they're firing older adults or not hiring them because they can pay less for a younger person to do the same position, but they don't have that life experience, and that really is a benefit. That is your value. That is a plus, for people when they're thinking about starting over or even transitioning into new careers, in the later years. So I want to go back because we're talking about hiking. Something else that you've done. I know you don't necessarily consider yourself an athlete per se, but something else that you have done and are doing that is very similar to what I've done and am doing is I started in fitness because I wanted to get in shape. And then I also, when I went back to get my certification to be a certified personal trainer, I wanted to help my family and friends. And so something else that you've done aside from hiking all over Los Angeles is you started a fitness group with your family members, the older family members in your family, older adults in your family, doing what is it, Fitness Fridays, where you do it via
Yeah.
Zoom. Can you talk about how that's going? What motivated you to start it and the results that you've gotten as a result of you actually doing it?
Yeah, so that started in 2020 in COVID. And actually, it was a client of mine that shared a family gathering that she has with her family every week. So it's like every Sunday or Friday or something like that. They get on Zoom and they just have a family reunion, essentially. And so whatever the family has done, they just chit chat and talk about it. Whoever is able to hop on, they hop on. I thought that was so beautiful. I only have like two people in my family, so it's not going to be like this big, massive thing. But I was like, what if we gather, once a week to exercise? It's COVID, nobody's going anywhere. We need to get our little flabby behinds up and moving. And, I'm being funny, but, just the importance of exercising, and you hear all the old souls say, "Oh, well, I can't move, and, I'm stiff and this and that." So, I'm solution oriented. And so I gathered them all up and I said, "Hey, this is what we're gonna do." So it was a combination of kind of modifying what my client had shared with me of what they do, what she does, and, kind of getting together with a purpose other than just chit-chatting, because I knew we wouldn't have that much chit chat week after week. So yeah, that started March of 2020, March or April. And we've been going strong ever since. Now people have fallen off,
I love that.
but yeah, we've been going strong ever since. And I recruited my other BFF. I recruited her mom. And so she's been pretty consistent. She's determined. And, I'm looking at all of the senior Facebook, Instagram feeds that say senior needs to, watch out for various, conditions or whatnot. And here are 5 exercises that'll help them with being limber or staying mainly mobility type of
Mhm.
exercises.
Right, right, right.
I tune into that, and clearly by no means am I Coach Flo. But I always say, if your doctor said don't do it, then don't try to, don't do what I'm saying, and let me know if you have a certain condition, and I can at least be mindful not to do jumping jacks. You're not supposed to jump.
Right.
So, I'm mindful from that respect, and remind them to be careful. But yeah, it's my mom, my uncle, and my extended mom, I'll say.
Awesome, awesome. Now, what have they felt like they benefit from doing it? Because I know at one point I worked with your mom, and she's in her 80s. She's a pretty strong little lady. Yeah.
Yeah, so I would say it's the discipline. So they know every
Mm,
Friday, 2 o'clock, it's going down. I'm not flaking, I'm not canceling. I'm expecting you to show up. So that's like
that's
our
awesome.
accountability, right?
Right, right.
So it's that, and I make it fun. I'm not like 10 jumping jacks, get to it. It's encouraging, and I'm light with it. So I think just the energy that I bring to the table keeps them wanting to come back. So even if they say, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna get motivated, I'm gonna do this throughout the week," and then we come Friday, "How did it go?" Well, I didn't quite complete what I said I was gonna do, but they're here, on Friday. So at the very least, they get that one day of concentrate. And you know what? We go, so it's from 2 to 3. And if I don't have to deal with technical things like helping them get onto Zoom, then we start pretty much at like 2:05. And we go all the way to about 2:45. So it's a good concentrated 30 to 40, sometimes 45 minutes of movement. And
That's
when you just
awesome.
10 seconds and then 5 seconds and all this, but you're constantly moving,
Right,
and tell them, we've been exercising for 40 minutes. They're like, 40 minutes. Now, if you told them we're going to exercise for 40 minutes, oh, no,
right,
I can't do
right,
that.
right.
So I think it's also one benefit is, it's mind over matter. And because I keep it interesting, we're doing different type of brain functions. So we're exercising the brain, the body, and the mind, I'll say in terms of just being, like wanting to, I tell them the goal is to not say I've fallen and I can't get up.
Yeah,
So
that's
just
good.
having that mindset, encouraging them, like, no, you just need to do some squats. Come on, let's do some leg lifts. Get
Right,
those,
right, right.
those thighs, muscles moving. And so I would say that. And I have seen growth. And I think they appreciate seeing from where they came from of, I'm trying not to say the name, but my mother from another sister, however that goes,
Mhm.
she was scared to get on the floor. And
Mm.
I've got her kneeling, on the
Oh,
floor.
that is so awesome. And how old is
Yeah,
she?
I want to say she's probably in her mid-70s, but
Okay.
she's had some injuries.
Mm.
She's had some injuries and surgeries and back issues and all kinds of things. And I think her knees are weak. And so to
Mhm.
come from being scared, I mean, scared to get on the floor, to
Right.
seeing my mom get up and off the floor, she's like, okay.
I could do that too.
And my uncle, he's weak on the left, and so he's been really focused, like, so my thing at the end, once we've done all the exercise, stretching, and warm-ups and all this stuff, is to get them to get down on the floor, ideally with no hands,
Mhm.
and get up, and do that as often as possible, or various routines to get up and off the ground. And so my uncle's side was weak on the left, and so he's like, "Imma get the left side," and he's gotten it,
That
so
is so awesome.
seeing that, I think, is another benefit that they experience.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, so that's definitely like, focusing on the family,
Mhm.
focusing on fitness and helping just older people like know that they can move their bodies because a lot of times, I know when I was younger, I used to look at people that were in their 50s and 60s and I thought they were old.
Right.
And I look at kids now like you better not. Even if they be like, "Ma'am," I'll be like, miss." Depending on, in the South, they say ma'am. But anyway, I mean, for people, you really, like you said, the age for collecting Social Security has moved up, and people are actually living longer. And that is one of the benefits of living longer. And that does extend your life when you walk, when you move. I have that phrase that I coined the more you move, the longer you'll be able to move. So it's like you're really adding years to their lives by doing that with them. And people say that to me all the time. I told you I train my dad 3 times a week doing
Right.
strength training. And I just told him the other day, I got to find the videos so that he can see. Cause, a lot of times, and that's like with anybody, where you're doing something consistently and you may not see the growth, but other people can. And so, for them to be able, they know just based on the things that they weren't able to do in the beginning and now they can to understand and really appreciate what you're doing for them by helping them be consistent. Even like you say, even if they only show up on Fridays, I have clients like that where they're like, "You know what? I literally won't do this without you." And I'm like, "Well, that's what I'm here for."
Exactly.
Okay, just keep paying me. Okay.
But
I'm
that
helping
accountability is
we're
so key.
helping each other. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We need each other.
Right, right, right. So something else that we did together, this is oh my goodness, I think it was 2011 where we no, it wasn't that far. No, I'm really tripping. I think it was 2021. We did a wealth summit. And
Yes.
something that and so we did what was it a week-long summit and we interviewed different social media professionals in health and wellness. That was so awesome. But something I talked about you being a gardener, and I know a lot of what you do as a gardener, you relate to your financial profession. So talk a little bit more about how you got into gardening and the correlation between finances and gardening.
Yeah, so I have been in and out of gardening well before COVID gardeners came into the scene here. I was gardening back when I was in high school, but that was obviously intermittent. But it was in 2018, or maybe it was 2017. I hung out, decided to connect with my uncle, visit my uncle, and he talked to me for 4 hours straight. And I said, "Oh, uh huh, okay, yeah." I said like 5 phrases for those 4 hours, and I told myself I've got to visit my uncle more often. And it was in 2018 when I decided to put a garden in his backyard, which would make me frequent, his place more often, have an activity, something else to talk about, and just give us something to do and then grow food in the meantime. And
Right.
so it was that, and then I also wanted to grow my own green juice. So we all know of all the pesticides and the yuck that's put in all of our foods. And so I was like, well, if I grow my own, then I don't have to deal with all that. So it was those two factors that got me started. And what I have learned at this phase of gardening is my relationship with God has gotten deeper. And
Mm.
so it's fascinating to see life grow from the
Mm.
seed all the way up to the production. the harvest and to see every aspect of it and how everything is whimsically set up in a type of organized fashion that looks kind of chaotic, but there's an order to it all.
Mm.
And that's life,
Yeah.
right? You don't necessarily, you know that you want to go from this point to that point, but you don't necessarily know how that's going to formulate, what the actual milestones or steps, to take to get there. But
Right.
you've got to save money, you've got to put some money aside. And then as you're setting money aside, you want to buy that house, you want to send that kid to college, but there's going to be something in between you setting the money into this investment or the savings account and you getting to that, accomplishing that goal that's going to throw you off path. Maybe a cat comes and tinkles on your seedlings, right? You got to start all over. A family member passes away, family member has to come into your home and now you have to care give for the family member. You have to, and you're taking care of your own child. There's a divorce. There's a marriage. There's a layoff. There's a promotion. There's all these different things that happen out throughout our life that correlate to seeing life grow in the garden. And then at the end, as long as you're continuing to replenish, nurture, till the soil, clean out all the weeds, clean out all the yuck, which is a continual process. Because
Right.
sometimes I think you feel like, how many times do I need to meditate, pray about this, get on this? When is this going to be done? No, because there's always going to be something, a weed sprouting up, ready to mess up what you've created.
If this conversation is hitting differently for you, I want to remind you to join us in the Afterflow, our Elevated Woman Inner Circle on Patreon, where we go even deeper and we're holding space for Black women to have a conversation and connection about things that we're typically made to feel guilty or feel shame about. So join us, click the link in the description. Now let's get back to the episode.
And so you've got to be prepared, pluck that sucker out, nurture the environment, but you still have to keep watering it. So that means, so what I've learned is that as I continue to replenish myself, nurture myself, water, myself, then that will help everything else around me, right? And some of that's around me is not necessarily good. And so I have to have the necessary discernment to not pull up the whole artichoke heart,
Mm,
but just be able to go, it's this, you're not supposed to be here. I got to get
right.
you out because you're
That's
creating
good.
havoc with everything else. And so that level of discernment and, just watching God is just incredible, and having patience. That's
Mm,
one of the latest. So consistency was a common theme. And as of late, it's been patience to watch God work.
mm,
That's what I've been hearing. And I think now in this AI age where there's this rush to get everything out and to start using it and incorporate it all, that sometimes you just have to be mindful of the tools that are available to
right.
help you expand and grow, but to also be patient and enjoy the journey to get to where you're working towards. I think
Mm,
there's a harmony that has to be placed in the orchestra,
mm.
that's the symphony that's being played is just, we don't want to bring in the cymbals too soon, you know, but we want to know that they're there. And when we're ready and it's time for the
Mm,
kaboom,
mm,
like now. So I know I went off of gardening with the whole symbol thing, the melody, but yeah, that's how I have began to see the strong correlation, because this is the point. Wealth starts from within. We're
mm.
born wealth. And I think that we sometimes forget that.
Yeah, that's
And
good.
knowing that we're born wealthy and it starts in here, then as we begin to reveal that wealth or show that wealth through our talents, our skills, our abilities, then we're able to attach a value to that. And that
Mm,
value is the price for our course, the price for our product, the price for our service, which helps to get to the goal of financial independence of whatever that is, right? So knowing that we have the value I think the next level is the trust, which is where the patience comes in. So we
Mhm.
have to trust that we have the ability to effectively bring forth our talents and our skills, to effectively market our talents and our skills to the right demographic, right? Well, they will receive it, pay for it, and not be in a space or mindset of scarcity, but will be willing to pay in exchange for the services and values you're presenting out there. And from there, they benefit because the services you're providing flow, the services I'm providing are to enhance people's life and well being. And so that
Absolutely.
exchange is not something where a person has to feel like, oh, I'm giving this person my,
Right.
money's going. No, it's to help you expand because your health is your wealth is your health. And if you don't have harmony between multiple aspects of your health, from your mental, spiritual, emotional, financial, and your relational wealth and well being, we got problems,
Right.
right?
Right.
You're spending all your money on health hospital bills and you're not out traveling and seeing the world. Well, who cares how much money you have?
Right.
I'm going to the Kaiser Permanente, So I know I went full circle and around and about. But knowing that wealth starts from within, we are valuable, you are wealthy, we are wealthy. It's not an evil, maniacal thing to attach a monetary value to that because
Right.
we're in this world where that kind of exchange helps to just circulate. Because the other thing that I don't think people remember or fully understand about money is that the highest and greatest use of money is when it's in circulation.
That's good. That's good.
Just like nature, everything circulates. Everything is in a constant cycle.
I love that. You know, uh, I wanted to point on several things. I didn't want to cut you off, but I wanted to go back to something you said. Oh, you were talking about patience, consistency, and patience, and enjoying the journey. What it made me think about is a lot of times I think and I'm just going to say as Black women, people that we sometimes are just on this journey, and it made me think about how where you could be driving home from work or driving anywhere for that matter, and you arrive to where you're going. So of course it would have to be somewhere that you're familiar. So you could say from work to home or whatever, but going home. And it's like you arrive home and then you realize I wasn't even paying attention. I just got here. And I think that goes to thinking about like mindfulness and being actually enjoying the journey, whatever it
Mhm.
is, because I think about that has happened a lot to me where I'm going and it's like, "Oh, I just got here." Like I didn't have to look at the GPS or think about it. It might have been on, but I knew where I was going, but I wasn't really paying attention. So, yeah, that patience and really enjoying the journey made me think of that. And then the last thing that you said, as far as money being in circulation, I wanted you to talk a little bit more because I know that your focus is on women entrepreneurs and improving their personal wealth to help them as entrepreneurs. So if you could talk a little bit about that as well as the money in circulation and the importance getting your personal financial self in order to become an entrepreneur. And something else, you talked about the difference between the certified financial planner, a financial educator, and financial, I don't know what they call themselves on the internet, but they may not be certified. And it's the same thing where it's like, can you explain what it is that those different roles are and who people need to seek out, what professional services they need at different stages that they're in financially?
Exactly. So I'll start with that last question and then I'll go back because I think it was about 17 questions you had in
It
there.
probably was. I told you it was like it sparked a lot of things in me, but go ahead. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So, Flo, we've talked about this. You've got these influencers out here that they do 3 jumping jacks, lost 10 pounds, and they're like, we're going to recruit a whole team and start teaching people how to do it. While I encourage people to be motivated and to share the goodness that they've experienced, there's a difference between someone that just woke up one day and, got determined and decided to lose a certain amount of weight or got determined to save and get out of debt and figured out a system for themselves and are excited and want to encourage others. I think that's great. But the difference in this a certified fitness coach, I don't know your certification either, But and a certified financial planner is that we have gone through rigorous training. So I understand not only my situation, but I can relate my knowledge and expertise to multiple situations and be able
That's good.
to provide anyone, within my area of expertise with the proper advice and be able to explain the pros and cons if they go down strategy A, B, or C and not have a bias. So it's my level of exposure and understanding of multiple aspects of the financial services industry, not just I was able to get out of debt and I started investing in the stock market and now I've got, X amount of dollars. Well, yeah, okay, great, but there's way more, to the financial planning experience. So when it comes to working with a financial coach, so under Zillionaire Enterprises, I'm a financial coach. So I'm the rah rah ziz boom bah. So I'm going to hear your goals, your objectives, what are you trying to accomplish, where are you right now financially, and I'm going to through my course, I educate you on money, how it works, how you need to organize things and essentially begin to get your financial house, in order. And I'll go into detail on that in just a moment. But it's the basics. So the coaching under my role is just the basic fundamental things. So that's getting rid of debt, creating a savings, having a discipline with your money, how you're spending your spending plan, and having a savings plan. Now, on the financial advisory side, so I am, as I mentioned, I'm a certified financial planner and I have an advisory practice, which is Sustainable Wealth Advisory Group. So there I'm doing the investment advice. So I'm helping you to actually take the money that you earn from your business and then helping it grow. Now, you are your greatest asset. So you're going to be able to generate a much higher return on the money you bring in. I mean, it might be a 50% profit margin. Well, I'm not getting you 50% returns. I can just tell you that right now. And that's not the objective. The objective is made, once you have physically exerted energy to earn the money, now we want to keep a portion of it and put that money to work and have it begin to earn money. And we want that money to earn as much as possible without being deemed by taxes as much as possible. So then that's where a financial plan comes into play. And then we also want to make sure you're protected. So we're looking at your insurance. We're looking at various ways in which you can save money so that if you want to become financially independent, we've got a time frame for that and we've got goals, set around there. So that kind of gives you an idea between the difference between a financial advisor and a financial coach. There's a lot of other names out there. I call them financial influencers or
Yeah.
financial
Educator.
educators
Mm.
or entertainers, because some of them don't have nothing to really stand on. They just have a good front. So you have to exercise some discernment on who you're really talking to and what advice. Even if you go into Claude and ChatGPT, those things will provide you with some direction. But even with that, you still need to know how to implement it. And if you don't
Right.
know, if your question is not, your answer is only as good as the question. And then when you get the answer, you need to know, does it really apply to you? And then you need to implement it. So guess what? You still need a human to assist
That part.
with whatever, right? So as you are gathering the information, whether you did the started through ChatGPT AI or Urea, which is a more eco-friendly thingamajigger, then what I do at Zillionaire Enterprises is to help business owners, particularly business women, and ideally women of color, to get their financial house in order. Because, yeah, you started your business because you want to make money, of course, but how well are you organizing it? You'd be surprised. I come across people who are making millions, multiple millions of dollars in their business and don't have a clear understanding of what their money is doing. They have no financial organization. A lot of business owners have that passion and have that drive, and they know how to bring in that money. But when it comes to managing and organizing, that's not
Mm.
necessarily the strong piece. And so what I do is I help them to create simplicity. So let's just create a solid financial foundation, which consists of 3 buckets, both on the personal and on the business side. On the personal side, we're looking at your DIP account, your emergency account, and your wealth account. And the dip account is the concept I created 27 years ago, working with heart centered individuals. I'd sit down, I'm like, what are your goals? I want to buy a house, send my kids to college, travel all over the world, do all these things. I'm like, all right, we're going to save money here, 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 and here. And we're on that path, right? We're saving the money. We get $1,000, 2,000, $10,000 saved. Boom, I get the phone call. Ring a ding ding. Melanie, my cousin was in a car accident and I need to pull some money out to help her. Or my mom needs some help. My daughter, my son, And I'm like, we just hit this milestone. You've been on this good trajectory of setting money aside and life happens. And
Mhm.
so as this was happening, to my clients, I'm like, I can't tell them you can't help your mama, I
Right.
had to I had to come up with, a healthy criteria for them to have the discernment to say, okay, this money is for me. And when I get down to this point, I can dip into it. So I encourage people to
Mm.
save at least a month of their expenses in this dip account. And typically for most Americans starting out, that's like $5,000. So when you get down to 2,500, you helped your cousin, sister, friend, mama, and all them. When you get to 2,500, that's your zero. Because if you actually had $0, what would you tell them? I'm sorry, I don't have any money. I can't help you. Right. So that's your zero. Just like you're on the plane, you put the mask over yourself, then you help the
Love
babies.
it.
Right.
Right, right.
So that's the dip account. The emergency account is a traditional 3 to 6 months, ideally 6 to 12 months of expenses, your monthly expenses to set aside there. And then the wealth account is for the sole purpose of buying an asset. And by asset, I mean anything that puts money in your pocket today or at some point in the future. And we're going to carry that over under our business. So we're going to have a reserve account, which acts like the dip account. We're going to have the operations account, which covers 3 to 6 months or 6 to 12 months of our operations, our overhead, our monthly overhead. And then we're going to have a future projects account. So I oftentimes deal with people that want to own the building that they're working on, or
Mm.
they want to create a retreat experience for their clients, or they want to write a book, start a podcast, and it takes an element of capital to do these things. And so that's the future projects is to set money aside specifically, for that. So that's like the basic foundational level of what an entrepreneurial's personal life, financial life should start with in terms of creating that foundation. And then how that is to be mirrored within your business. Because once you get a hold and get clarity and get structure around your personal finances, you're going to do well managing your business finances. And that's what I help you with in the Money Master Accelerator.
That's awesome. That's awesome. What would you say is the biggest financial mistake you see high achieving women making even when they're earning really well?
Shame, feeling shame about their finances
Hmm.
because it's the front of I you'd be surprised. 80% of what I do is financial coaching, or I should
Mm.
say financial therapy. And 20% is actually functionally saving money here, understanding what these accounts and
Wow.
Sure, but it's really getting past that because most of the people I work with are in their 40s and 50s. Like my clientele has moved with my age, so it's really like 50 and up. And there's a lot of rebuilding of wealth
Mhm.
happening for women in their late 40s, early 50s, and early 60s. And so it's the shoulda, coulda, woulda, and why didn't I? And while they may have 300,000 sitting in an investment account or sitting in the bank, and they're bringing in decent revenue, the shame around where they think they should be is
Mm.
strong.
Wow. Okay.
It's strong. And so helping women entrepreneurs get past that completely accelerates their cash flow. It's mindset. Incredible how that element of shame and embarrassment, although there's perceived success, it
Right.
is success. I won't say perceived. It is
Right,
success.
right, right.
You got the house, you got the car, but if your expenses are right up to what you're bringing in, and you're only saving $1, but you've got $50,000 a month of expenses. Well, we
That
have to
match up.
pull back a little bit because there's this need to feel it's the need that material items define your success. The
Yeah.
car, the house, not just the car, the luxury car, the Mercedes, the high cost, and that is the definition. And if you don't have that and all your colleagues do, then, you're out of the mix and out of the box. So it's kind of like an interesting kind of peer pressure. Whereas if we pulled back from needing to shop at Erewhon and Whole Foods and, everything has to be organic, and really took a moment to shift and say, this is where I am right now. I'm in a regrowth phase because I had a divorce and I got to get myself back together. There was a layoff. They fired me when they shouldn't have. I was a part of the 300,000 Black women that got, kicked out. I got to
Right.
regroup and having that self-assuredness and self-confidence to not feel as if you have to keep up with your peers because they're sending their kids off to Jack and Jill camp and you're like, we can't do that, honey.
Right.
We just can't afford that trip or whatever, or bring yourself up to, let me figure out how to make this happen. If I need to do the Uber, if I need to figure out how to change my product line, really getting into a surgence of a hustle mode. There's going to be a phase
Mm.
where you will have to hustle until you can take a moment, to breathe because we're in a regroup. We're in a regrouping
Right.
phase. So
Yeah.
getting past that shame is huge.
Right. What would you say to a woman that has all of the things? Because I have been surprised by people, I've been an entrepreneur for 13 years, and I've been surprised by my peers and have asked questions of my peers, like that have worked in corporate America or worked in being educators or whatever, and climbed the ladder, so to speak, in their industry that are like, oh, well, I need to start saving for retirement, but they have the house, they have the car. And I'm like, wow, I would have thought that these women had those things together. So aside from just counseling them and helping them to get past the shame, what would you say are some of the first steps that a woman in the 40s and 50s that hasn't started saving and has not really started preparing for retirement, especially since you said, we're just now getting started at 40s. And I know as far as compound interest is concerned, we have time working against us in that respect. But what is it that they can do to feel confident in where they are to move forward and feel like they can actually retire and not work until they
Right. So that's a loaded question there, but it's shifting priorities. And when you shift priorities, you shift your mindset, then you begin to realize all that stuff really isn't all that important. What's
Mm,
important is for me to work inside. So that's that level of intimacy that we don't like to expose. Working on those finances is revealing you're sick, you're ill, and being able to first identify that. Once we identify that and we shift the priorities, and the priority isn't about maintaining, what is it, the Joneses, keeping up with the Joneses, then
right,
we can begin to pull back because no matter what level of income you're at or financial goal you're at, there's always a need to just clean house. How many subscriptions? I say this all the time. How many subscriptions do you have that you're not using? You know, do you really need Amazon Prime Video, Netflix, Hulu, HBO? Why don't you read a book? You
right,
know, and
right,
although that might be $25, $10, $15, when it's about 5 or 6 of them, that's $100.
right,
You're just letting go out willy-nilly, that $100 could be earning some interest, on, right? So it's really taking a moment to look at the expenses and start tracking it, being very conscientious of where you're spending your dollars. Do you, in this time of rebuilding, does everything have to be organic? Do you have to go to Whole Foods? Can you go to Rouse and go to their organic section? You know what I mean? Like, cause when you understand like production, they just put this bag in the Whole Foods bag and then this bag, in the Ralph's bag. It's the same apple. So do we need to pay a premium for that? So just being mindful of the expenses and then creating systems around. So I'm also not saying don't get your hair done, don't get your nails done, don't go shop. I'm not saying any of that because an element of that provides us with peace of mind to
absolutely.
replenish, to relax, if it's a gym membership, if it's to continue working with Flow Life Fitness, keep going. Don't cut that subscription because you need to keep your exercise intact, right?
Right. Yeah,
And your health is a part of your wealth. So I mean, so
absolutely.
I'm never telling anybody, yeah, well, you're just gonna have to figure out, how to use emery boards and, cut your nails yourself. If that's your time to get away from the kids and have some peace of mind and do something for yourself, we just need to incorporate it into the budget. Do you have
Right.
to get the gel and the this and the that that's, $72, or can you get the whatever
Right.
that's 25? Just be very purposeful and intentional until you can get back to that point of being able to align with abundance. But right now, we've got to pluck these weeds. We've got to,
That
pull
part.
back, pull back. So those will be the first preliminary steps. So believe it or not, is just really getting a hold and clarity on how you're spending the money. Because I'm always able to find at least $500 to $1,000 of money that's just unaccounted for. They don't know where
Mhm.
it's going, or it's being directed into something they're not even using anymore, which is waste. It's
Right.
inefficient. So that $500 to $1,000 can now be directed towards clear, definitive goals that you're trying to
Right.
accomplish.
That's good.
And it's
That's good.
also a matter of having a clear purpose and a plan for every dollar. So that really getting fine tuned and in touch with where your money is going and where you're saving your money, having clear buckets, like I described before, the dip, emergency, and the wealth account. That's important. That's important.
Yeah. I wanted to move we could talk all day. We could talk all day about this, and this is really good. So before we close, when would you say that you were in your flow state? Because you were talking about, the getting your hair done, the nails done, and all of those things, and it points to the V in my framework, which is the acronym for elevate, and that V is valuing yourself. So those are some things that you do to say, I'm valuing myself. It's not to say that you don't deserve these things, but like you said, being mindful in the spending. When would you say that you're in your flow state? I could probably guess one of them is when you're in the garden, but when would you say that you're in your flow state?
You named it. When I'm in the garden, because I have to control myself. Now that I've got my container garden, all squared away, I'm like, okay, so I'm just going to feed it, water, and then, go back, to what I'm doing. So I'll use my garden as my opportunities for my breaks and my vitamin D. And now that the spring is here, summer is here, and I'm doing that, an hour passes. And I'm like, I was just supposed to be out here 15 minutes.
That's definitely flow, where
Yeah.
time disappears.
I have got to get that under wraps, just be very maybe I just do half at one point, then half at a later point. I cannot spend an hour first thing in the day, in my garden. 15 minutes I can.
Yeah,
I just don't realize how long just feeding that garden, takes. I'm moving. I'm not just
right.
patting around. But yeah, it would be my garden for sure.
Awesome, awesome. All right. And so, just with the work that you've done, I want to move into our last segment, which is passing the torch to the next generation. I know that you are already working with children, providing financial literacy for children and teens through your program. Also, what is another way that you like to pass the torch to the next generation?
Well, that would be it. It would be through my courses or through the summer camps, that I was more active in doing that I'm in the process of revamping and getting back out there and, helping the kids understand money in a way that their parents may be sharing it with them, but oh, it's mom, dad, they don't want to hear it kind of thing. But just to help parents reinforce these kind of concepts in a fun way
Awesome.
is a fun piece for me. And they
Awesome.
absorb that information so quickly and so well. It's a delight to see.
Yes, I love that. Educating the babies so they can, like, not make some of the same mistakes that we make.
Absolutely.
Well, I know that you work with women 40 and over, helping them with financial literacy as well, financial education and financial planning. And you have a program, AP. Can you talk about where people can follow you online and get more information about the services that you provide?
Yes. So I am just about on every popular outlet, at least for 40 and up. I know there's a ton of more, but your Facebook, TikTok, yeah, Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram, you can find me under Zillionaire, and that's ZealLionAire. And there's a link there to find out more about my Money Master Accelerator program, which is under a free trial right now.
Mm,
So you
get
can
you
check it
some.
out. Yeah, you can check it out and see if it does align with you, and then you can pay for it. And I've set things at a very reasonable, affordable rate. And it's an opportunity to go at your own pace, get your finances in order, learn along the way, stay connected to me, be in a community of other women and people on the move of making themselves even greater, elevating to the next level.
Awesome. Elevate your finances. Yes, with MMAP. I love that. Money Mastery Accelerator Program. Well, thank you, Melanie. I really appreciate you coming on to the Elevated Flow podcast. Until next time, everybody, this is Coach Flo signing off. Remember to find your zone and elevate your flow. Peace.
1, 2,